Major African leaders are meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping this week. Publicly, this is an effort to strengthen relations between China and the African continent, but the real target might be to push the US dollar out of Africa. There is a geopolitical war brewing behind the scenes, and Africa has found itself in the crossfire. But could this benefit Africa? Let's talk about it. This week, China is bringing in the heads of state from Nigeria, South Africa, Mali, Congo, and others to convince them that China, not the West, are the true friends of Africa, and they want to lay out a long-term roadmap for how Africa can develop without relying on Western groups like the IMF or World Bank. But why does China care so much about Africa's future? Because they want to undermine the West. China hates that the West has the ability to control trade, that they can threaten sanctions at will, and that the West has embarrassed them on the Taiwan issue. But for the past few decades, they have been powerless to challenge the West on these key issues and have had to play nice with Western leaders. That is because the West has two major assets on their side, the US dollar and the euro. Being the world's dominant currencies, this allowed America and Europe to create nearly limitless amount of debt without experiencing hyperinflation. This allows the West to fund their enormous military budget while at the same time providing Western companies with the capital resources that makes them very difficult to compete against. How does Africa play into this storyline? Africa controls the most important raw resources in the world, and if they were to favor BRICS, this could potentially end the dominance of the US dollar and the euro. This would mean that the West could lose their ability to fund their global military presence, which is China's dream outcome. This would take decades, but China is known to play the long game. So how can Africa benefit from being in the middle of this geopolitical struggle? Both the West and BRICS are likely going to be willing to offer anything the African nations want to win their favor. This could mean debt forgiveness, favorable trade deals, infrastructure projects, and even advanced military technology. It is critical that the African nations don't sell themselves short and settle for a quick deal. They should play both the West and BRICS against each other in order to achieve the best possible outcome. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think African leaders are up for the challenge of negotiating with both the West and BRICS, or do you think they'll sell themselves? Chinese President Xi Jinping announced a substantial financial commitment between China and Africa. This includes $51 billion in financing and backing for 30 infrastructure projects across Africa. This was a much bigger move than the West expected and part of BRICS' long-term strategy to push Western influence out of Africa, and it looks like it could be working. President Xi also pledged $70 billion in new investments from Chinese companies in Africa over the next few years. On the political side, China has entered into new partnerships, notably with Libya, where a strategic pact was announced, and Egypt with a $14 million investment in joint projects. These investments highlight China's goal of securing long-term alliances and promoting the Belt and Road Initiative across Africa. So what happens now? The West has found itself rapidly losing political capital in Africa as their push for social reform and debt obligations have been wildly unpopular on the continent, with many up-and-coming leaders looking to BRICS as a better alternative. For the West to continue to have influence in Africa long-term, they will need to reevaluate the way that they conduct diplomacy. This may be difficult as Western special interests tend to dictate political diplomacy, and those groups will likely prefer a more profitable short-term strategy as opposed to long-term alliances. But I want to know what you think. Do you trust that China and BRICS will be able to deliver on their promises? Or do you think the West will find a way to win back Africa's favor? Let me know in the comments below. And if this video brought value to you, give me a like and a follow. That really helps out my channel, and I'll see you guys